So we are going to
Oh man.
get into the Bigfoot Society After Dark podcast.
Hmm.
So let's see
Sounds
if you have
spooky.
it. It can get spooky or it can get weird. Like it's funny because every guest has a different way of looking at it. It usually ends up. I'll be curious to see where this one ends up because they always like kind of go towards the same.
Hmm.
We'll see where it goes, but I'll tell you what I'm thinking afterwards, and I'll
Okay.
yeah, it's weird.
Well, I think, okay, so when I grew up, when I was young, about 5, 6,
Okay,
7, maybe,
Pittsburgh.
my mom, yeah, Pittsburgh, there was a place called Freeport. And my mom, my parents divorced, so she raised us. And, well, I mean, I saw, whatever. I went to work with her once. It
Mm-hmm.
was a night, and she helped. It was mentally challenged folks, and there was a
Okay.
home, like sort of like a group home, right?
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes her job would require her to stay overnight, on the weekends.
Hmm.
So she was kind of stuck, and I had to go with her. So I was like, okay. But you think the thing that's interesting about the house is that it was a recorded gateway of spiritual activity and
Oh.
demonic activity and a lot of things.
Oh,
Like
yikes.
historically, everyone knew about the Abbott's house. It was a scary place where, the family got run out of there by ghosts, and the radio station used to go and saw the owner lifted up and thrown against the wall, and I mean all these
Oh,
terrible things.
geez. Whoa.
So that's where I went and spent the night. The only time I did this, and I will never forget it. It was in the winter. It was close to Christmas time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there with my mom and I think there were only a couple guys upstairs in their rooms. They
Okay.
were like locked, kind of like
Sure.
kept safe up there or whatever.
Okay.
And she said that there's been I remember her on the phone talking to my aunt who also worked there. And she said there's been a lot of activity. I heard some stuff and whispering, and I was like, that's
Hmm.
weird. So it wasn't long, probably like an hour after bedtime. And we heard the front door. And so her office is once you go through the front door, you come you come past the big old wooden staircase. And then if you keep going forward, her office was there, and it had two doorways or two doors.
Okay.
And we locked them both at night, obviously, because we're in there.
Sure.
And in the middle of the night, we hear the door open,
Oh
the
no.
front door, like a screen door, and then the big wooden door open and then shut, and then footsteps walking up to that
Mm,
stairway. And then they did this like this pattern, weird thing.
really?
And here, mom told me years later that pattern was from one of the guys in the van that day, and she said, "Will you please stop it? It's really loud, and stop clapping."
Whoa.
And here, that's the pattern that happened.
That's
and
crazy.
and then nothing happened after that. For that minute, it was like that was weird, and I was laying there, and then it was like a big whoosh, and the doors went boom like that, boom like that.
Nope.
And I don't know what happened. So the lights came on. Mom's like, I gotta call your aunt. So she called my aunt Kimmy, and here she said, you have to calm down here. So Aunt Kimmy came down in a blizzard in the middle of the night to
Oh
come to
no.
just so that we could have another person. Now my mom did not let on that something was wrong, but I remember it like it was yesterday. It was so strange. So
Yeah,
Kimmy
totally.
came, and mom's like, okay, thank you, and then we went to bed again. And it was like the sound, all of a sudden, it was like thousands of pieces of paper were falling on the ground.
No
That
way.
sound it would be like just
Yeah.
you just threw like a whole entire thing of paper
Oh
and turned the
jeez.
lights on, and then the door did that thing again. It went boom. And that I just remember that being so terrifying. And that was like my first experience with like ghosty stuff. And there was
Okay.
another time there I saw a can of tomato paste just start spinning. It wasn't because I have mind powers, trust me.
No. Okay.
But
11
it
from
just
Stranger
started,
Things.
right? Maybe I
Yeah.
am. Maybe it's all me
Wow.
this whole
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it was just really weird,
Wow,
and then
that is weird.
I mean, it's and then as I got older, mom told me what happened, and
Mm-hmm.
we have a
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
interest in the ghosts and paranormal, and they
Oh.
they actually eventually got the house exorcised. Some lady
Mm.
came in with holy water, and then it
Jeez.
rats. everywhere through the
No,
basement. Yeah.
not a chance.
Yeah. So I
Shit,
just remember that house
really?
was scary. Yeah.
They went crazy with the holy water, and all of a sudden, all the rats went out.
Yeah. Within the next 2 days, they were
No
infested with rats.
way.
And
Oh,
I
they.
think they had to shut down for a while.
That's weird. So either it's the rats came in, or the rats were like, "We're moving," and then.
Yeah, I
So either way
don't
is weird,
know.
right?
Yeah, because I remember in the basement, it was like a dirt basement. It wasn't finished or
Yeah,
anything. This
yeah,
house
yeah,
was
yeah.
so old. And I remember they just saw prints everywhere. And then Kimmy
Wait.
said, well, this could have been here a long time. We haven't been down here in like a year, so we don't know these aren't fresh. They might not be fresh. So they put flour down
Oh yeah,
and
smart.
then they went down and they were everywhere. So they had to.
Good. No thanks.
I know. And I wonder, I think that the family that lives there now, they bought it and they actually painted a ghost because of all the rumors in town. They actually painted a ghost in the
Whoa.
attic, just making fun of it. But I think there's a family there now. So I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
know.
know if I would mess around like, haha, let's paint a ghost, see what
I
happens.
know. I believe maybe that'll like summon something. I don't know.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. Like I'm a big wimp, even Bigfooting, all that stuff. I love it, but I'm really scared of it too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was actually a fantastic, really good story. Thank you. That's
Really?
awesome.
Thank you.
Oh
I feel like
yeah,
I'm the
that was really
worst
good.
storyteller
No,
ever. I kind of
no, that
am.
was awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Usually people will end up chatting about like sleep paralysis comes up all the time on this. It's
Oh,
weird. Like
wow.
2 out of
Mm.
the 3 times. So like this is the fourth one. The other 2 out of the 3, it's like sleep paralysis or like weird shadow figures, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
almost told the zoo one. Like I saw shadow figures at the zoo, in the
Oh,
aquarium.
really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And like I said though, but I was like, hey, you might get a lot of shadow figures. So
Hmm.
I wanted to mix it up with some paper stories,
Well, I
ghost
think
papers.
paper can be the scariest.
It is
Um,
so scary.
if you have a few more minutes, I'd be interested in what is the craziest Bigfoot story or like experience that you've been a part of, or maybe that you've heard. If there's
Mm.
anything like crazy in Bigfoot that comes to mind, like that would be really, really cool.
Um, I had an experience which you might have already heard about. Cliff probably mentioned it, maybe not, but Cliff went bigfooting. I had the day off. He went bigfooting,
Okay.
not far from here, just for the day, just to walk
Sure.
around. And then the night he came home and whatever, had dinner, went to sleep. And it was like after 1:30. I can't tell you exactly what time because I cannot see that far. Like the clock is like across the room. I don't know. It was like after 1:30. And
Yeah.
I woke while there was a freaking Ohio howl coming from our bedroom. It was like,
No.
and it was loud. And I woke up and I'm like, what are you doing? And it was still going on. And then it stopped. And Cliff's like, that was not me. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was
What?
so like and our dog was in the room and he just said, it's probably Sochi. And I said, okay. Yeah, all right. I was so tired. I went to sleep. And then as soon as I woke up in the morning, he's staring at me. He said, that wasn't Sochi. Like she's never made a sound like that. She goes, ruff, 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 ruff,
Right.
when she's
Okay.
dreaming. That's the only sound she makes. She doesn't even bark. She'll bark probably because I said that. But
So it came from the room?
it was inside. But now Cliff, we have two huge windows on my side of
Okay.
the bed, like two
Ah, yeah,
huge
yeah.
windows. And then there's forest right there. Like within
Oh
20
man.
feet, there's forest. And and then once Cliff told me, I think it might have come in from that window. That
Hmm.
freaked every hair on the
That would
back of my
make
neck.
sense. Yeah.
And it did, now that I think back, because when something like that happens, you're just like trying to get all the details, but you miss it because you're
Yep.
just
Yep.
so shocked it's going on. And it was like an Ohio howl. There was no doubt about what it was. And it was
Wow.
up at the window. Now,
That was a
to me,
solid
that was the
Ohio
scary.
howl too, by the way.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I mean,
I tried.
that's a good story. That's
Yeah.
legit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
thank
mean,
you.
and Cliff's had tapping on the house, and then he does it like
Whoa,
outside.
what?
He'll clap in a pattern outside. Oh, that's weird. Just like my ghost story. But he'll go outside
Oh
and
yeah, that's
and
weird.
do like some sort of pattern, and he was getting it on the house. He was like tap tap because he was
Yeah.
downstairs and he came up to the kitchen and he was like, "Oh my God, did I just hear that?" And then he
On
heard
the
it
side
again.
of the house.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's wow.
yeah. So
Oh
things happen
boy.
out here. We're not far from the zone. So
Yeah, because you pick the property in regards to some Bigfoot like reports, right? Like you looking for a place.
yeah, I
And
know.
it
I was
sounds
like,
like you got
well,
it.
we did. Yeah, we're not completely in the zone, but we're pretty close. And
You're
they do
pretty
cruise
close.
through here. But I wanted a mountain view. That's like, all right, Bigfoot's cool, but I kind of want to see that Mount Hood. So we compromised.
Yeah, totally.
It's close enough. I mean, the stuff that happens, we have cougars, we have bobcats,
Oh,
bears on our
yikes.
trail cameras. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
food moving through here.
That's a good point. Yeah, like they're
Mhm.
probably getting ready to chow down. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
we
great.
have a 80-foot drop down to Sandy River. So I mean, and a Bigfoot could probably scale that no problem. But
All the
uh,
you have salmon
food
over
and
there
water.
probably.
Yep,
Yep.
steelhead and salmon.
Yeah, totally.
So that's all you need for a Sasquatch is food and water, and some
Totally.
cover.
Yep.
I mean, in
Man,
my opinion.
that's a cool. Thanks. This is a cool story. It's good.
That was scary.
Good
That was
story
so
time.
weird. Yeah, it was very weird. And I'm glad we both. And that's the thing when spooky things happen or Bigfooty things happen. If it's just like in Turner, Maine, it was just me that heard a couple things. So it's not very validating, especially when you don't know
Mm-hmm.
much about the subject. But being in bed and hearing it together, that was very validating. That
Oh yeah.
that's what we heard, right? He was just floored, and the fact that he was Bigfooting that day, that's weird to me. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Yeah, because it's like,
Like, I
yeah,
don't know.
you
I
don't
don't know if
know
they're woo
what
woo, but
Bigfoot can do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
cannot say, I am not here to say they're not paranormal. I tend to think that they're naturally occurring species of, apes, but
Yep.
or hominids or whatever he calls them. Like I said, I don't research it very much, but I feel like I don't think you could say with any absolution that they aren't or couldn't be paranormal, because that to me is weird that happened.
Or how about this? Dolphins can do crazy stuff. Who's to say Bigfoot can't do crazy stuff? You know what I
Right,
mean? Like have
right.
all these like crazy, like,
Hmm.
yeah, animals can do crazy stuff.
Yeah, they have
Yeah,
superpowers.
they really do.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Melissa, for spending a few minutes of your time with the
Oh yeah.
podcast, and keep doing what you guys are doing. I can't wait to see all the improvements that Connor does on the back end.
Yeah. Pressure's on Connor.
Yeah, because yeah,
He's gonna be great.
um, and also give my regards to Cliff and Bobo as well. They
Oh,
are
sure. Yeah, I haven't seen Bobo in a while
great
since
gentlemen.
COVID hit, but hopefully I think he's supposed to come up eventually here. So I will certainly do that. And
Cool.
thank you so much for your kindness and a great conversation. So
You
thank
got it.
you.
All right. Chat with you some other time. Have a good one, Melissa.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.